spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I really wonder how many different times we say that every week. I don't know how many out of the hundreds of episodes that we have, like how many are actually like
pitch perfect or sound the same each time, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You kind of tend to change it up every now and then, so I would say 75% maybe.
Nice.
So,
yeah. I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz,
Hello.
and we've been doing this for hundreds of episodes.
Indeed, we're almost at the 150 mark, which is exciting. I'm pretty excited for this episode. Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering abandoned amusement parks, but this is just going to be like my first installment out of the numerous abandoned amusement parks that are out there in the world.
I know you were coming across a few. You're going to make it a compilation, as you said before the show.
Yeah, and then it ended up not being one, so...
You realize, oh wow, there's a lot to this one, so that is exciting. I'm going to be covering the Battle of Los Angeles, so pretty excited about that. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
And we will get to it. Before we get going, though, I just want to address a couple of things really fast. So Saturday, we typically have game streams where we stream a spooky game. And you folks can come and hang out with us, and it's a good time. It's a lot more casual, I will say.
I think it's super cash.
Then our Storytime episodes on Tuesdays, which are slightly professional, almost. There's a structure to it. Saturdays are like, we're going to start around noon. And it's definitely noon-ish, because sometimes it's like 12:08, sometimes it's 12:10, who knows?
It's very casual, because it's me just waking up. Half the time I have a bagel or some type of breakfast food that I'm eating.
The streams almost always start with Robin's chair empty. We're both sitting really close to each other, because we're on a webcam, because we're streaming video games. So that's just how it goes. We didn't have one this Saturday, and I posted, hey, we have an urgent family matter to attend to. This is not an emergency. Trying to calm everyone down and let them know, don't freak out. That said, for all the Saturday streams we've ever canceled, which isn't a lot, this one definitely had the most people freak the fuck out. And I thought it was really funny because I was like, I literally put it's not an emergency. So to just be 100% transparent, Spooky Dad, my dad, had back surgery at the beginning of this month. He had several screws removed from his spine and scar tissue scraped away.
What do we call my dad?
I don't know. My mom's Spooky Mom. You've never challenged that one before, so that's a little weird.
Well, my dad actually talks about the podcast. I don't think my mom does.
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to table that for a different time. That said, my dad did not schedule his life events well. So I've been going over there during the week to help him with his rehabilitation and generally just tell him to stop moving around so he doesn't hurt himself because he's dumb. And he also has to find a new place and be moved out by October 31st. And he does not have a place lined up, so it was like, okay, well, you have 14 days. I'm going to come over and we're going to go see some places as long as your back can hold out. And he has really bad reactions to his pain medication, so he doesn't take them most of the time. So he's in a lot of pain. So that was the urgent family matter. Was like, we need to find you a place. We need to apply for these places. And then we need to figure out a plan for moving you. So that's what I was addressing. So expect for October 31st to have some other version of streaming attached to it. Won't likely be a morning stream. It's also Robin's birthday.
It's my birthday, so I don't know what... I mean... I don't know what I want to do. It's going to be my birthday. Maybe we'll play something that's not scary because it's my birthday and I'll do what I want.
Yeah, we'll figure that out along the way, but I will be moving my father probably a couple days before that too. So it's going to be a crazy time, y'all. So that is addressed. Fun stuff. The other thing, because I said we have some exciting announcements coming out at the end of that post, and we have one of two, I think. Yeah, we definitely have one we're about to go ahead and just toss out there. And then we have another one to come next week. And then we have a secret thing that we're working on as well. So technically there's like three things. So to go ahead and get into one of those exciting announcements, I'm going to try and keep this brief, but I do want to say a little bit about this. So last November, I think it was like November 15th, we announced that we had reached the milestone of 500,000 downloads, which is 500,000, which is absolute insanity. We came in just under 2 years. It was like 23 months is how long it took us to get to 500,000 downloads. And we were extraordinarily proud, as we still are, of hitting that mark. And it's sincerely thanks to the Spooky Friend community that's grown around us. And it's a number I never would have thought we'd ever get to. And I haven't really paid attention to the stats. I was total stat whore for the first 2 years. And I was also being like really proactive with advertising and things of that nature. And since we moved to the new host, I don't really have to worry about it as much, so I'm not stat whoring as much. And it kind of occurred to me like, I should check it. So I did. I checked the download numbers, and it turns out that last Wednesday, we officially went over the 1 million download mark.
Woo!
So it took us 23 months to get to 500,000, and then 11 more months to get to 1 million. So 7 digits, man. Like, that's nuts. Our voices have been downloaded like 1 million times. That's just, I can't imagine wanting to hear us talk that many times, but it's absolutely overwhelming, and I'm extraordinarily
I cannot believe it.
Blown away.
When we started this, we didn't actually think that would happen, because we have had like a gaming podcast before this one. Didn't go so well.
That was like a third or fourth chair on that one, so it was a bit different. So
oh yeah, that was not like my podcast or anything.
That was my baby for sure.
This one's definitely my baby.
I don't know. I'm pretty invested into this one too, and I think we split those responsibilities really well, and I think that's sort of why we've had the success we've had, and it's super cool. And I will say one other thing too about those numbers is that the traditional way of monitoring and counting your download numbers, I haven't been doing. So when I looked back through and I was like, okay, well, if we were actually doing this for like an ad service and they wanted to know how many downloads we have, it's actually like 1.2 million. So we missed the milestone like a ways back. But the way we've been monitoring it, which is like full downloads and listens, is 1 million. So we are extraordinarily happy, and thank you so much to everyone who helped us along the way with this wonderful journey. So, okay, next week we'll have another announcement, and then at some point we'll have a secret fun announcement. It's nothing too big, but it's something fun. So good stuff. Yeah, I believe I'm going to be going first this week, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah, you go, girl.
Okay, so this week I had the wonderful experience all week of knowing exactly what I would be covering. In fact, this week and next week I already know what I'm going to be covering. Because it is Extraterrestrial October. So I have had to go ahead and go into the past extraterrestrial things that I found and just put dates on them so I could sort of plan it out.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Extraterrestrial October?
Yeah, it's just like
it rolls
nice.
off the tongue really well, but it doesn't sound as good as January Patreon push.
Oh my god. It's October. You can't do that right now.
I'm like, my lips are getting warmed up for it. So that said, I think we can all agree that my dream vision head movies have been really, really fun to hear about, and I wanted to let you know up front, there's not going to be one for this episode, because to be blunt about it, I just didn't have one. And I'm not just going to make one up. That would be dishonest.
So
when I tell those stories, they are absolutely true. Side note, they are 100% not true. Expect them to return in the future, although there will certainly be more storytelling to come before October ends. Oink, oink.
All I'm hearing in my brain is expectum patronum.
I hate you so much.
I've been talking about Harry Potter like all day.
I said Avada Kedavra during D&D the other day, and someone said you mispronounced abracadabra. It was fucking hilarious. Anyways, this week I'm going to be covering the Battle of Los Angeles, as I mentioned. So first and foremost, seeing as this is the third installment of Extraterrestrial October, I will go ahead up front and give the standard disclaimer to take this story with the proper grains of salt. However, this one is kind of interesting because so much is documented about it. That said, there are some parts of this story that are absolutely 100% true and absolutely bizarre, so keep an open mind at the same time. And you may be wondering, why are we getting the disclaimer about Battle Los Angeles, that Aaron Eckhart movie about alien invasion from 2011?
Is that the guy from I, Frankenstein?
It is the guy from I, Frankenstein. And Thank You for Smoking. And he's also...
is he the Quispy guy?
He's the Quispy. Okay. He's Harvey Dent / Two-Face in The Dark Knight. I think he's amazing. I love him. That movie's not great.
Wait, The Dark Knight or Battle of Los Angeles?
Battle Los Angeles.
Okay.
That would be because we're not going to be talking about that. The story I'm going to tell you, however, is definitely what inspired Battle Los Angeles, the movie. The real-life events that took place, albeit they took place a lot longer ago than 2011. Some of you may be wondering, why am I giving a disclaimer for the 1999 Rage Against the Machine album by the same name, Battle of Los Angeles?
Are you serious?
Because I'm not talking about that, silly. That's music, obvi. Side note, that album rocks so
what
fucking
song is
hard.
On it?
Born of a Broken Man.
I don't know that one.
Testify.
Don't know that one.
I hate you so much. I'll show you the playlist and I'll play them and you'll be like, oh yeah, I know this one. So although I would encourage you to wait until after the episode to listen to it, now that you're thinking of those songs, I absolutely took a 4-minute and 41-second break to listen to Born of a Broken Man when I realized that this was overlapping. However, before you do that, let me help you make that decision and allow me to inform you about what I am talking about, instead of all the things I'm not. The Battle of Los Angeles is a very real event that took place on February 24th to 25th in 1942. Less than 3 months after Pearl Harbor happened and the United States officially entered into World War II. This battle is most notable as being one of the only times in the 1900s that the United States engaged in a battle on its mainland against a foreign invader. The real interesting part of this whole thing is that to this day, no one knows who that foreign invader was. Now, there is a whole lot to unpack with this topic. Stuff like what happened in 1942, the aftermath of the battle, the theories of who or what the enemy could have been, and of course the fake evidence that some present with this particular event, thinking that it's real or purposefully misleading folks to get them to a conclusion that's more sensational. Some would say the battle part of the Battle of Los Angeles should be placed in air quotes, or quotes if it's written, as there are many who doubt there was even an enemy in the first place. But like I said, we're going to get to that. Let's start at the beginning. I think most people are familiar with World War II and what World War II is. Maybe not super in depth, but that it was the sequel to World War I and shit was crazy. So World War II, just a brief overview, started on September 1st, 1939 with Hitler's invasion of Poland. I have mentioned this date before in one of our earliest episodes, way back actually, in episode 1 when I covered Timur's Tomb, which has a bunch of things that have to do with World War II. Hitler invades Poland, and without getting too bogged down in the details of World War II, the United States did not get involved for over 2 years. It maintained the stance of neutrality for the record, but was definitely like helping out the Allies under the table. The neutrality ended on December 7th, 1941, when the Empire of Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor, a military installation in Hawaii. I think most of us are familiar with that. And although lots of places state that December 7th was the day we officially joined the war, it's technically not accurate. The United States began mobilization for the war that day, obviously, but the official declaration of war with Japan came from the United States on December 8th, 1941. So if you're one of those people who love correcting people and start every sentence with, actually, there's another round in the chamber for you to use.
Okay.
So I was like, actually, the U.S. did not officially join until December 9th. I just did that, so I'm basically making fun of myself.
So, which one is the actual day that will live in infamy?
December 7th is the day. So, if anyone cares, the declarations against the other Axis nations, they came on December 11th, 3 days later. I was a junior. This is interesting, and this is 100% true. I was a junior in high school when I learned about World War II. In America, I don't know if everyone else is like this, but for me, U.S. history, where we really dove into World War I kind of and World War II especially, was junior year. So that was when U.S. history was for me. And I knew about World War II somewhat. I knew the countries that were involved. I'd heard about some of the battles from my dad and my grandfathers, both of which who fought in World War II, both of which who received Purple Hearts, both of which are immigrants, which is going to come back in a little bit. But I never had a really good timeline or grasp of dates for World War II. So as I was learning about World War II and the impact of it, it kind of seemed really unfathomable. And I say that, and I wouldn't have used the word then, but now I really do know how apt it is. I couldn't picture it. I couldn't relate to it. I couldn't imagine what it was like to have our country be attacked, or the fear that would go along with it, or the anger, or the exploitation of both of those through our own propaganda. And it seems so bizarre to be reading about these sort of things, and I just really couldn't picture it. And literally while I was learning the deep details of World War II, 9/11 happened. That is not a joke.
Wow.
Like, in the middle of learning about World War II and thinking, like, I can't imagine this, 9/11 happened. And I don't think I ever really realized that that event is what shaped how I learned about World War II and how I wound up attaching to all these details from it. because I did wind up experiencing all of those things, like right then and there. I vividly recall the fear and the anger and the hate and the exploitation of folks that had those things within them through propaganda. And this is so incredibly relevant to this story. And due to the boldness of the attack by the Empire of Japan in 1941, the entire West Coast was immediately on alert. So anyone who's alive who remembers 9/11 or remembers the days after, even just remembering 9/11, like one tower got hit, and then the second tower, and then the Pentagon, and then the fourth plane crashed. It's like you didn't know when it was going to stop, and you didn't know when it could just start again. And that's what was going on when this whole thing went down. Okay?
Wow. All right.
So you had all that anxiety of not really knowing what was happening, except you were at war. And for the folks back then, it's like you were at war again. You were at war, a world war, the most massive war on the scale of the planet that you had ever seen for the second time in your lifetime. Like World War I was called the war to end all wars. And then like 25 years later, it's like, just kidding. Actually, it was like 20 years later. So these folks just couldn't believe what was happening. And it was a really scary, scary time to be alive. Like California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, they all had soldiers and defensive installations in place. Everything you would imagine that could or would be put in place to prevent an invasion was put into place. That's just how things were. That is World War II. That's the reality of it. These massive defensive artillery would be installed up and down the coastline. And the cities on the coast, whenever there was an alert, would be put into blackout. That way, any potential enemy bombers would not have easy targets to drop bombs on, and massive spotlights would shine into the sky from the ground in an attempt to spot any potential aircraft. And it's not like this never happened. Blackouts happened a lot. The spotlights would go up in the sky a lot.
Yeah.
There were alerts that would go out a lot. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. And if you can imagine the fear that folks may have felt, maybe this story will affect you a little bit deeper than most. So, on February 23rd, 1942, a Japanese submarine surfaced just off the coast of Santa Barbara, California, and fired 25 artillery shells at an oil refinery. And it did fairly minimal damage, and no one was hurt. There was no casualties, no injuries suffered. But the fear that the war could come to the mainland in the United States was now very, very real, because it had. It absolutely had. Then, the next night, the evening of February 24th, 1942, Naval Intelligence alerted all units on the California coast that they needed to be prepared for a possible attack by the Japanese Air Force in the night. So, they got prepared, and they waited. And I cannot imagine the feeling of being a soldier that night on your home soil, awaiting for a potential attack after one had just happened the day before.
We are very lucky to not have any battles that have happened like in recent memory or in our...
We have viewers that are like 16, 17, 18, 19 that are like, I wasn't alive for 9/11. And we have viewers and listeners that are older than that. It's like, yeah, I was alive for it. I don't remember it at all.
But the fact that we don't have to deal with like trenches and anything like that on our shores or anything, like...
Right.
We're very lucky.
You can't really picture it, It's like, you hear about this stuff, and it's almost like you're learning about the Revolutionary War. It's like, no, my grandparents fought in this war, and they're not that old, I mean, some of them are dead, but they're not that, like, half of them.
Oh my God.
But it's really crazy to think about, and the amount of fear and anxiety you would have waiting in the night for anything to happen. And as the night dragged on, that tension only grew thicker. But the world had something in World War II that they did not have in World War I, that people that were in the trenches would not have to alleviate their fears. And that's radar. Radar was officially invented, I think, almost 7 years to the day, in 1935. So we have this new technology that can see these things coming in, so we won't be completely blindsided, So at least there's that. And then at 2:22 a.m. on February 25th, so technically the next day, that radar detected an unknown, which during wartime means enemy, contact just over 120 miles west of Los Angeles. Flying. This is not in the ocean, it's flying. And at this moment, whether you're a soldier or a citizen, the experience was fairly similar. The sound of an air raid siren ripped through the night. alerting everyone that there was imminent, real danger, and citizens sought shelter. Soldiers ran to man the anti-aircraft guns and the searchlights, and the city was put into total blackout. So like that, this air raid siren basically just changed the lives of everyone in that city. And the sky was scanned for just under an hour with all of these searchlights looking for anything. And witness accounts, whether it be citizen or soldier, were kind of all over the fucking place with what was seen in the sky. What is universally known to be the moment that shit popped off and the Battle of Los Angeles commenced was when spotlights focused on an unknown object flying in the sky.
Little did they know, it was Mothra.
I hate you so much.
What?
Mothra will be in San Francisco. Everyone knows that. The object, I say that because that's where everything popped off in the first movie. Anyways, the object was said to have looked like a blimp or a balloon. And within seconds of being spotted, the troops in Santa Monica started firing massive anti-aircraft rounds as well as 50 caliber rounds from machine guns at this object.
What's the difference between the two? I always thought they were the same thing.
Well, 50 caliber can be something that's shot from a machine gun, so something that's manned by like just one single individual. And anti-aircraft rounds are like 3 inches wide by 12 inches tall.
What?
And yeah, they're fucking enormous. I was trying to find a picture of one to put on the Instagram and / Facebook. I couldn't find a good, accurate one. They have like a bunch of rounds compared to each other.
You're
and
trying
I was
to
looking
see if
for something.
someone just has one holding in
Yeah,
their
I wanted
arms.
an actual comparison where it's like, that could be tiny, you don't know. But these are absolutely enormous shells being shot into the air.
They're the size of a child.
Have you seen Under Siege? When the guy walks out onto the deck because he hears the alarms going off, and the alarms are literally to tell people, get off the deck, the cannons are about to fire, and he's next to one when it goes off and it blows his fucking eardrums and like knocks him back. That's the size of gun we're talking about right now. It's an artillery gun. It's meant to shoot planes out of the fucking sky. That's what the bullets are for. That's why they're designed to be so big. And the troops in Santa Monica are like, okay, that's something, and they start shooting at it. Because they're not waiting around to find out, you know? They did wait for orders to fire, which I have a quote in here in a little bit.
Okay.
But this whole thing pops off. Like, it's happening. There's an invasion going on right now. That is the attitude and the mindset of every soldier and every citizen in Los Angeles on February 25th, 1942. This is the reality. And when the firing began, it only took mere moments before nearly all the other coastal cities who were on alert that were within range just began their barrage at the object as well. So it wasn't just one city. One city started it, and then it's just like, boom.
A whole country finished it.
And no, not really. And so I have a picture that will be on the Instagram and the Facebook of all of these anti-aircraft guns firing into the sky. So I don't know if any of you all out there have ever heard cannon fire, much less anti-aircraft, but it's what I'd like to call loud. Like, just try to imagine the loudest boom you've ever heard, and that's probably not enough, especially if you're standing near it. And these rounds are being shot into the night. And we do have pictures, like I mentioned, of the spotlights, like, surrounding this one object. All of these spotlights on one object, and the barrage that's being unleashed into the skies above L.A., afterwards.
Did they have planes up there at all, or no?
They didn't have planes up there because they're just firing rounds in the sky at this point.
Okay.
So they didn't scramble aircraft to take down the other aircraft because they think they're going to be bombers. They're just trying to shoot them out of the sky with anti-aircraft.
Okay, gotcha.
So the pictures that we're going to post are in black and white. So it's kind of hard to imagine. It's another one of those things where you're like, this just looks like the long, long ago. But just imagine where you're at right now. Wherever you're at. If you're at home, if you're at work, if you're in the car, public transportation, whatever. Take in the scenery around you and imagine it's 2 a.m. For some of you, it might be late. It might be dark outside. If not, just look around and see like the beautiful, serene scenery that's around you. The relative quiet that would be around at 2 a.m. And the darkness that's kind of illuminated by the lights so human beings can get around. Imagine all that. And then imagine this shrill scream of an air raid siren that just scares you. And then total darkness. And that's what happened. Like, what would you even do? And then imagine you figuring out a solution, and then around 50 minutes later, you hear these massive guns start firing. And you're not looking at these black and white pictures anymore. Instead of looking up and seeing stars, probably brighter than you could ever hope to see because of a power outage, you see impossibly bright cylinders that you can not really picture unless you saw an actual spotlight before, you know? And they're scanning the sky, and they're all focused on one object that you can't identify. And then you see blazing orange-red streaks of light, accompanied by these incredibly loud blasts as they're shot into the sky, going up over and over, these streaks of like literal hellfire that reach their destination and explode.
Oh, so it actually gets to it and hits it.
Yeah, it gets to... Even if it doesn't hit an object, they still explode in the sky.
Oh, okay.
So imagine you see these streaks 1,433 times. That's how many shells were fired into the air during the Battle of Los Angeles. An unknown number of .50 caliber bullets were also fired into the sky. I've been woken up by fire alarms and smoke detectors in the night, and the disorientation from that is jarring, just trying to figure out, like, how do I turn this thing off? I can't imagine this, and I kind of don't want to. And with the sky lighting up, people started seeing all sorts of things in the sky. Eyewitness accounts range from Japanese bombers to Japanese fighter planes to enemy paratroops descending down on the city. One of the coastal artillerymen, named Charles Patrick, stated, quote, "I could see 6 planes, and shells were bursting around them. Naturally, all of us fellows were anxious to get our 2 cents worth in, and when the command came, everybody cheered like a son of a gun." And if that's not dialogue from 1942, I don't know what is. So, you may be wondering, how long did this last? How long would it take to fire 1,433 anti-aircraft shells into the night sky? Over an hour. That's how long this thing went on. And eventually the sightings stopped being reported, the objects in the sky stopped being seen, and the firing stopped. And the all-clear was not given until 7:21 a.m., almost 5 hours later. Los Angeles and its people would survey the damage and the casualties on both sides with the morning light. And the Battle of Los Angeles would claim 5 American lives. 3 individuals died from vehicle accidents during the battle.
Wow.
And 2 others suffered heart attacks.
Oh my God.
All 5 were considered to be friendly fire, but there were 5 American casualties during the Battle of Los Angeles. And as for the enemy, the Japanese that everyone said they saw, 0 casualties. Let me be more specific, though. Of the literal tons of steel that was launched into the sky at enemy aircraft and paratroopers being reported, the only thing the artillery hit was on the ground in LA by way of shrapnel. Multiple businesses and homes were damaged or destroyed by falling shrapnel from the artillery itself, but from no planes, and certainly no troops. As for signs of the enemy, there were literally none. Nothing. No bombers, no fighters, no paratroopers, nothing. And as accounts began to be compared the next day, it became very clear that the images that were seen in the sky did not match each other and certainly didn't match anything that was seen on the radar. The locations of these sightings varied as well, with essentially each account stating a different location. In fact, the only sighting that was confirmed was the massive blimp/balloon-like object that the searchlights had all focused on that began the shooting. Everyone was baffled, and everyone waited for official word on what had just happened. And then it came. The official word: false alarm.
Could it have been like a big old albatross or some giant, like, huge bird?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and just say no.
Okay.
So, false alarm is the official word from the United States military. There hadn't actually been anything. It was referred to as, quote, war nerves. Everyone's just on edge. Shit happens.
I could believe that, though.
It sounds feasible. It absolutely does. But people were still baffled. And most were scared. And most were furious. They didn't know why, but they believed they were being lied to because something had happened. Something monumental and terrifying. And they felt there was a cover-up. They felt there was something there, and they were not being told what it was. But then again, if there was an enemy army, where were they? Where was the shot-down planes? And the paratroopers are either landed alive or dead. They must be somewhere. Or they weren't there. They hadn't been there in the first place. One thing folks really wondered is if there was nothing there, which was the official word, then what the hell was the thing that everyone saw in the sky, that all the spotlights focused on, that they could not identify? Now, during the time, folks did not immediately jump to it's something extraterrestrial. They believed there was something else at play, and it only fed into the anger, like the government's lying about what happened. There's some other theories I'm going to get into a little bit later. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to step out of the timeline right now and get a little wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey for a moment, okay? In 1949, so 7 years after this happened, 4 years after the war ended, this incident was revisited and investigated. It was determined that a weather balloon released earlier had become lost somehow.
Okay.
And that's what was spotted.
Weather balloons... I hate that anytime someone's like, I saw something in the sky, it's a weather balloon.
This was, I believe, the first time the weather balloon had been used as the unidentified flying object explanation.
Okay.
It may have happened previously. In all my research so far, I think this is the earliest. I'm not saying that officially for the world. I'm saying that for Scaryish. So, weather balloon is what came back in 1949. They say that the weather balloon got lost, floated in there, triggered the initial shooting, and the objects and individuals that was seen after that by various individuals were all just figments of frightened people's imaginations.
Then what was on the radar?
Something was on the radar, and they said weather balloon. They also said that the shells exploding in the sky and the smoke from previously fired rounds combined to form the appearance of enemy crafts, but there actually hadn't been anything there. The photo of the spotlights...
Sounds like a bunch of horseshit.
Right? The photo of the spotlights shining in the sky would be used by quite a few folks who were skeptical about this explanation. Later on, the photo would get touched up to try and make it clearer, and the object seen in the spotlight confluence where they all meet seems odd in shape. It does not appear to be any sort of aircraft. It does not appear to be a weather balloon. Now this retouched photo is claimed to be a hoax by skeptics, and they say that folks just want to push an extraterrestrial agenda to sensationalize this story, but the object of interest that had been confirmed by the radar seems to be saucer in shape, unlike any weather balloon that was being used at the time. The lack of physical debris, coupled with the new picture, led people to start wondering if what had been observed on the night of February 24th to 25th in 1942 had not been human in nature. Now, before I press on, I would like to note yet again the frequency that UFOs are seen around and in relation to military installments, large gatherings of military forces that appear to be at war, and nuclear weapons, which at this point would not have a bearing on this particular scenario. It was in development. The nuclear bomb had not yet been, I guess, unleashed, is the best way to put it. So,
we all know what happens with that bad boy.
Doesn't go well.
Oh, God.
It's believed that a casual extraterrestrial observer had shown up in the dead of night a day after artillery had been fired in Santa Barbara and had been spotted by the recently discovered technology of humanity known as radar, which I have the official date here. It was February 26, 1935, which is almost 7 years exactly prior, is when radar had officially been discovered. There are still many folks who are skeptical of even this explanation. What is known is that the Battle of LA did indeed take place. It is a real thing. When people bring it up, a lot of people dismiss it as, it was a hoax. 5 people died. 5 people actually died from this battle. From whatever happened, 5 people wound up dead. There were casualties as a result of it. No one was really satisfied with any of the explanations given at the time.
So on death certificates, do they put the situation in which they died, or is it just like heart attack? Or...
I've never seen one. I mean, that's not true. I actually have seen a bunch. It's typically cause of death, and they have like notes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, like, what might have caused it, like fear or extreme stress or obesity or whatever.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, I've just described the 3 things that'll be noted on my death certificate.
Jesus Christ.
So, of
God,
the folks at the time who were not satisfied with this explanation was Representative Leland Ford of Santa Monica, California, who called for a congressional investigation into the battle. He said, quote, "None of the explanations so far offered remove the episode from the category of, quote, complete mystification." See, it's like they're just leaving it completely unexplained. And he wasn't happy about it. He goes on to say this was either a practice raid or a raid to throw a scare into 2 million people, or a mistaken identity raid, or a raid to lay a political foundation to take away Southern California's war industries. So now this battle is already being worked into political agenda, saying this was done to take away Southern California's war industries because they thought it was going to be moved somewhere else because California was too at risk to develop things.
Okay.
They're going to take jobs away from constituents, and it's suddenly a talking point. One final time step before I settle back into 1942, okay? After the conclusion of the war, as with most wars, records are released on both sides after a certain amount of time to get an official account of most, if not all, battles from both sides.
All right.
It's so historians can accurately document what took place. Japan indeed released records on this particular incident, and they officially confirmed that they had flown no aircraft over Los Angeles, not only this night, but at any point during World War II.
What?
They're like, if you saw something above LA, it was not ours.
Wow. Okay.
100%. 100.
Oh my God.
This battle was examined
We're not that hip.
again for historical accuracy in 1983, 2 years before I was born, from all angles and all military evidence from all sides that could be gathered. According to official record from that, the likely catalyst for this battle is thought to likely be meteorological weather balloons.
It's just such copping out. What is it called?
Copping out.
Yeah, it's just bullshit. Okay.
What has not helped folks, including myself, who attempt to investigate the battle in recent times, is the fabricated images and fake headlines that were created as a marketing tool for the fucking movie
No, shut
Battle
up.
Los Angeles in 2011. Absolutely. Like, they just put, like, they took stuff that actually happened and pictures that actually happened and just added some shit in there.
Oh my gosh.
Such a pain in the ass. I found a
that's
video
genius.
or two on YouTube that's actual footage from 1942 afterwards, where it's like the old timing guy, like, Battle of Los Angeles, and it's like the worst footage you could ever imagine seeing, but it's some crazy shit in the sky. Like, you can see the rounds going off, and you can see this weird object that no one knows what the fuck it was, and it's like, weather balloon. For 50 years,
It would have popped, right?
it would have popped. There should have been something. I mean, it would have been fucking shredded by the sheer amount of artillery just poured onto it, but you imagine some part of it would descend and be found, and they came out and they're like, there's nothing. And then later on, in 49, they're like, weather balloon. Like, no evidence of it, but yeah, we're going to go with weather balloon. There was weather balloons in that area. So, because of this shit that happened in 2011 from Battle Los Angeles, and I don't blame Aaron Eckert, I just want that on the record.
Because you love him.
I love him. History gets further entwined with myth, and it's harder to unravel what actually happened. And what is known is that the object seen that night triggered this battle, and it's officially said to be a wayward weather balloon, which has been the company line of the government for any unidentified flying object for the last 70 years.
Sounds like it's a mystery.
I hate you. That sounds hilarious, though. The object does not appear to be weather balloon in shape and remains officially unidentified, as the evidence only, quote, points to it likely being a weather balloon. So, the battle was very, very real, as was, unfortunately, the aftermath of the Battle of Los Angeles. 5 people died. I have mentioned this. If you thought the fear and the anger that I was describing earlier was palpable before the Battle of Los Angeles, imagine what it was like afterwards. People think their government's lying to them. People know that Americans have died. The day before, an oil rig was shelled by a Japanese submarine that surfaced. All of those things combined has everyone as heightened as they could ever possibly be. And when the official word comes back, there wasn't really a battle. It's not good enough. And the very real people of that time had their fear and their anger and their desire to blame something harnessed by the other very real, very awful people of that time. So conspiracy theories came out about a secret base that Mexico had let Japan build so that they could attack California. And folks
hate people.
started viewing the Mexican and, in general, Latin and Spanish population of the area as potential enemies. And this incident, and the anger, and the fear, and the hate it generated, would become a primary talking point and source of fuel for something that had started 5 days earlier, on the 19th of February, 1942. That was known as Japanese internment. The loss of life and overwhelming emotions were exploited and turned into an excuse to round up Japanese Americans and place them into internment camps. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly the enemy had a face, and it was the face of people's neighbors and friends, and in a lot of cases, family members.
I'm from Hawaii, so it's like I grew up learning about all that stuff.
It's awful. They were rounded up like animals. All in all, 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated in concentration camps in the United States. This stuff is going to get intense, but it's going to have a happy ending, I promise, okay? There are some very important facts that I will wrap this part up with, okay? Japanese internment in the United States began February 19th, 1942. It ended March 20th, 1946. The war on Japan ended February 2nd, 1945.
So they were still in internment camps for a year
They were in
after?
internment camps for over half a year afterwards, before they're like, I guess we can let you go now. Of those interned, the official number of spies found is 0. Not a single Japanese spy or person spying or committing sabotage or aiding a spy was discovered. There are sites on the internet, shocker, that claim as high as 10 to 12% were, quote, willing to do those things. That number is 100% purely speculative. No one that was rounded up and thrown into a camp was guilty of sabotage or espionage.
I wish you could have seen Adam's sassy hands.
Very angry about this, okay? Spies were a part of the Pearl Harbor attack, which is what fed to this fear and actually led to the presidential decree that this be done. Japan did have spies in the continental United States. Japanese spies recruited agents in the U.S., and guess what? They were not dumb enough to recruit Japanese Americans who they 100% knew would be targeted when this shit popped off. Guess what they recruited? Caucasians, like Harry Thomas Thompson, who was the first American to be convicted of espionage after World War II.
What?
100% Caucasian, Japanese spy. The last thing I will say on the internment is that there were those that were in the camps that volunteered to join the U.S. military. Of the 120,000, some were like, just let me fight in the war. And a lot of them got their wish. And they were put into the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, okay? They were almost completely second-generation American soldiers of Japanese ancestry. So anyone that volunteered wound up going into the 442nd. And for a unit of its size, to date, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team is the most decorated military unit in U.S. military history.
Whoa, shut up.
Totally 100% true.
That's really cool.
Their unit had around 3,800 individuals, okay? 3,800 people. It's a lot. 120,000 people were in the camps, 3,800 individuals in the 442nd. Their accolades are as follows. For 3,800 people, 9,486 Purple Hearts.
How is that possible?
Because they got wounded multiple times.
Okay.
8 Presidential Unit Citations. Presidential Unit Citations are for extraordinary heroism and action for an entire unit. They received 5 in 1 month.
Wow.
559 Silver Stars, which are awarded for gallantry in action. It's the highest personal decoration for valor in combat. 52 Distinguished Service Crosses, the second highest military award for extreme gallantry and risk of life in actual combat with an enemy force. 1 Medal of Honor, which is the most prestigious personal military decoration that can be awarded to a U.S. military service member who has distinguished themselves by acts of valor.
That's not just a video game.
I would also like to note that even though it was only 1 Medal of Honor, the unit is so recognized and so well known within the military historical community, an additional 20 Medals of Honor were awarded retroactively and in some cases posthumously.
Wow.
So there's that, okay? And I don't know what happened in the sky over LA 70 years ago. Everyone spotted one thing and then all hell broke loose. And if it was a visitor monitoring us that was extraterrestrial in nature, I don't think they really had any clue how poorly their mission went. Like, I'm telling this story from the human perspective. There's probably some alien podcast out there on, like, Glip 9 or something like that that's covering the exact same event, and the topic of their episode is, like, one of the worst exposures to humans in Glip history. Because it was a shit show, okay? Whatever it was scared literally millions of people. And it resulted in the death of 5 Americans. And it went on to be used to justify the absolute worst in some people, which in turn was met with the absolute best from others. And while this may not be as extraterrestrial as other parts of Extraterrestrial October, it is by far my favorite part of this month so far.
Aw, look at you.
And that is the Battle of Los Angeles.
Nice.
Thanks.
Choice.
So before we move on to Robin's topic, we are going to take a quick commercial break.
Welcome to the other half of the episode.
Hail and well met.
So, like I said earlier in the episode, my topic's going to be about an abandoned amusement park, and I came across so many that I'm just going to make it kind of like a series, kind of like how Adam does Haunted Hollywood, or how we do like paranormal games and things like that. It's just going to be another series that we have part of our show. It's kind of cool. This particular one that I'm going to do, it's called Lake Shawnee Amusement Park.
I grew up on a street called Shawnee. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that last episode.
There's got to be was last episode, did I talk about a street called Shawnee, or was it a city called Shawnee?
I'm pretty sure it was a street called Shawnee. It was like 4800 Shawnee, blah, 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 blah.
I think that's crazy that 2 episodes in a row or something that we're going to have this same name.
Coincidence?
I think not. It really isn't, or actually is.
This is the exact definition of a coincidence.
It is a coincidence. It's almost 3 a.m, so we're like tired. All right, so there are creepy places all over the world. Lots of creepy abandoned places. And there are a lot of stories of places like Centralia, which I don't think we've covered yet, but we definitely will. I have it on my list.
It's a Silent Hill place, right?
It is the Silent Hill place. So it's just these places that were once thriving and popular and then kind of began to die off and then get pushed to the back of our minds. And that happens a lot.
Yeah. You know what else we haven't covered?
What?
H.H. Holmes. You mentioned that before the show,
yes,
and I was like,
did.
It's kind of nuts.
There's a lot of things that we haven't covered yet that I really do want to cover, and a lot of them are the big name serial killers still that we have a bunch to do.
Haven't covered Illuminati, haven't covered Men in Black.
Illuminati's going to be so much work, though.
They will. They both will.
But we will get there. We do have quite a list still of topics. If you folks want to send in stories for our Storytime episodes, we could definitely use those. Storytime@scaryish.com. Please send them to us.
We also accept topic suggestions, so if there's something we haven't covered. It's kind of funny because sometimes we get new listeners, and they're like, hey, I don't know if you've covered this yet. I'm only on episode 9. It's like, you fucking guy. It's 140 more episodes I gotta circle back through to see if we've covered it, because sometimes I forget. Control F, that's the way I do it.
But you can, if you are curious if we've covered something, you can go to our website, scaryish.com, and just like Control F on the episode list, and it'll come up with whatever if we have something in there. Anyway, alright, I'm gonna get back into my actual topic. Amusement parks are one of those places that don't always stick around forever. Not all of them can seem to live forever like Disneyland.
I don't want to live.
You know what's funny? I just watched that movie yesterday.
I know you did.
Anyway, pre-apocalypse Disneyland anyway, because this is just insane that it still has not opened and it's almost been an entire year.
I understand how bad the pandemic has been for folks. I do take exception to it being called the apocalypse, though. It's like, we are very spoiled human beings.
Well, yes.
That, this pandemic is kicking off, and it's like, this is the worst thing ever.
Just think of a park like Disneyland. It's completely empty, and no one's there. It's been a year. Downtown Disney's crazy as fuck. But, like, the park itself, like...
It's been like 8 months. 7 months tops.
It's
I went backwards.
Weird.
That's not how that works.
It's weird.
It's definitely weird. It's unprecedented in my lifetime, without a doubt.
Anyway, a lot of these amusement parks, just not Disneyland, over time kind of lose their appeal and their audience. And sometimes it's because new parks open or because people start moving away or whatnot. People start going less and less each year, and then they kind of just get overgrown and forgotten. Maybe they get too expensive to maintain. And I mean, we drive past an abandoned water park every single time we go to California.
Yeah.
That creepy, like, totally graffitied place that's just...
Isn't there clowns in there, too?
Are there?
I think I just imagine clowns must live there or something.
I think you're imagining clowns, because it's just, like, buildings that are kind of... They're
definitely covered in graffiti.
They're covered in graffiti. They're obvious. It's
in the middle of the desert, too.
Yes, it's abandoned, but you can still see the water slides and stuff like that are still up.
I'm usually driving, so I honestly don't really see it that often.
But just trust us, the place looks absolutely terrifying. I think there was one car ride where we asked each other, like, do you want to, like, stop there and check it out sometime? The answer is no. It's terrifying looking.
Asked each other means I asked her and she told me absolutely fucking not.
And then, you know, some parks just decline naturally, as is the way with business. You just can't constantly keep something up if people aren't going.
It has to be reimagined or sold and then recreate, like Class Action Park, like that place. Like if Class Action Park still had its original owner, they'd have like COVID kiddie pool. They never would have shut down. They'd have been like, hey, you come to die. That's what you're here for, right?
So some parks have horrific accidents that cause them to close down. And not everyone is as bad as the subject of the documentary Class Action Park.
I knew you were going to bring it up in your script.
But there are those that have their own slew of accidents. If you folks have not seen the documentary Class Action Park, watch it. It's great.
It's on HBO.
I can't believe how many people on there are like, dude, I went and it was amazing, but you could probably die.
I mean, it's weird for me because I grew up in a place where I don't feel like we were coddled at all. We certainly were not coddled. It was like you could get hurt just having fun and doing stuff. That's where I grew up. It's nothing compared to Class Action Park, where it's like someone got hurt, so we're gonna make this ride like featured now. Like, it's dangerous.
Oh my, what?
And it's like they just kept highlighting the fact that like Class Action Park, anything could happen.
Well, there was that one.
It's not, obviously it wasn't actually called Class Action Park. I'm pretty sure it was just Action Park, right?
It's just Action Park. It's because class action lawsuits against Action Park.
It's the
Class
nickname.
Action
It's
Park.
the name of the documentary.
But there was that ride at that park where it was like a water slide, and it was that
Just launched you.
There was one that launched you, and then there was the loop one.
Oh, where people kept getting stuck and smashing their faces into the top of the loop.
Into the top. Like,
it was an enclosed loop-de-loop.
Oh my! Who does that? Who does that?
You know
I'm
who?
Sorry.
Class Action Park.
Oh God. Anyway, not every park is that bad. Not every park shut down because of that many horrific things that did happen at that park. And that park is not abandoned, by the way. Someone owns that place.
Been sold and revamped, yeah.
Yeah, and it actually looks nice.
I don't know about that, but
I don't think it's open. It's not open to people.
Well, now.
But there's still like water features and pools and stuff. It still looks nice. It's not abandoned, grown over, gross. I don't think. I'm sure there's parts of it that are abandoned. We could talk about that park yeah. Okay. Anyway, in Rock, West Virginia, there is a rusted down. No, that's not how it works. There is a rusted, overgrown remnant of what was Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, and it's been abandoned for decades. It's located on Route 19 between Princeton and Mataoka. Never been to either of those places. I'm sure they're nice. The tale of this particular park begins in the 18th century with the Clay family. And they owned the land, setting up a farm and a home. It's like they came and just started settling that area, right? It was, however, already settled by Native Americans. But that's something different entirely.
Subtitled The Story of America.
So they owned the land up until the 1920s when a man named Conley T. Snido purchased it from them with the dreams of turning it into an amusement park. Little did he know, this land was the resting place for a number of Native Americans. So
Wow.
you can, boom, cue poltergeist theme.
Burial ground.
And, I mean, not poltergeist theme, like a ghostish theme or something like that.
The theme of the movie.
Well, we can't do the theme of the movie because we don't want to get copyright struck, right?
No, I mean like the narrative theme of the movie.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that. It's thought that around 3,000 Native Americans have been buried in the area. Not only was the park inevitably built on the site of an ancient Native American burial ground, it was also the site of the Clay Family Children Massacre. I wouldn't call it a massacre,
Holy
but
shit. What a name.
This place was all sorts of fantastic.
You say, okay, are you about to tell us about the massacre?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a massacre, but the internet calls it a massacre. Anyway, on a random day, don't know exactly which day, a day in August of 1783, Mitchell Clay had gone into town. Some say he went hunting, some say he just went into town. Either way, he went out, came home, only to find that his son had been killed and scalped by Native Americans, as well as his daughter.
Wow.
His youngest son, Ezekiel, was nowhere to be found. The kids apparently had been working in the fields, which is normal. They owned a farm. I'm sure that was bound to happen. Supposedly, they'd been surrounded by a number of Native Americans. And I say supposedly, just get ready to hear supposedly.
Because we don't know. It's a legend.
Yeah. So Tabitha, his daughter, had heard a gunshot and ran to her brother Bartley. He'd been shot, and they attacked her and supposedly dismembered her. You really are going to hear that a lot, so bear with me. Even though Clay and a group of others went to confront them and find Ezekiel, it was too late as they had already burned him at the stake. And it makes me wonder what had transpired between Clay and the tribe for that to have happened, you know? Why would they go out of their way to kill a bunch of kids? It just doesn't make sense to me. And with a gun? Did Native Americans go out of their way to use guns?
I mean, it just depends on the timing, I suppose. Like, if it was like wartime? Okay, I don't know. There's too many factors.
There's a lot of factors about this story. It's interesting. So on top of that, I'm like, where is his wife during this whole thing happening? I wonder if the Native Americans had anything to do with it at all, or if he was the one that murdered the kid. You know what I mean?
Right. He used them as a scapegoat.
And everything that's going on in the world today, I really would not be surprised, you know. There's actually a stone historical marker on the road leading to the park as a memorial of what happened. And supposedly it's where Bartley and Tabitha are buried. No one knew that these things had happened or transpired when they built this park. So construction went on. After he bought the land for them, just started building. Snido built a small and simple park. It had circular spinning swings, not super fancy and potentially terrifying like they can be now. There's ones that kind of freak me out where the entire top starts tilting and doing creepy, like, and makes you go super fast.
Right.
And, but no, this was super simple. You'll see pictures on our Facebook and Instagram later. It also had a water slide and a pool, dance hall, and a pond with canoes, so you could canoe. Supposedly, spring water was filtered into the pond. So the slogan for the park was, you can boat and swim in drinking water. Wow,
that's a pretty good slogan.
It's a pretty good slogan. Whether or not it was able to drink, I wonder, you know. It's cute. You could even rent bathing suits to swim if you didn't have one.
Gross.
For 10 cents.
Is that a lot?
10 cents? I mean, remember when gas used to be like $1 something?
No, I don't.
Oh my God.
I mean, when I was a kid, I remember, but I've never been an adult filling up my tank who wasn't like, I hate my life when I look at the price.
When I first moved to Texas and started like pumping my own gas and stuff, gas was only like $1.80 something.
That's still pretty friggin' high, dude.
But coming from Hawaii, when gas is $4 a gallon,
oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, this is crazy. But 10 cents for renting a bathing suit, that's amazing. I used to work at a timeshare resort in Hawaii. renting a boogie board costs like $40, okay?
But this is, what time is this being open? You said 1920 something?
1927, yeah.
Isn't 10 cents like a small fortune?
I don't know. We could look it up, but we're not gonna. And then you can't forget that there is a Ferris wheel as well. It opened in 1927. At first, it was a coal mining area, so families of coal miners would come here to take a load off when they could. It started getting pretty popular. It drew in crowds from all over until something strange happened. Dark and horrifyingly strange.
Wow.
It might sound irresponsible, but I'm sure it was commonplace back then. But a mother sent her 11-year-old son to the park to play and hang out for the day.
So, I know you said we weren't going to do this.
Damn it, babe.
But I Googled it, and never mind. I'll stop talking. Hang on, I can do this math, actually. So, in 1927, $10, which is a lot more than 10 cents, had the equivalency of purchasing power of $150 now.
Okay.
So, it's $1.50.
Okay.
If you move the decimal twice, which I think works.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it does. It's $1.50. It'd be like renting a bathing suit for $1.50.
Okay.
Really glad I interrupted your narrative for that.
Thanks.
Moving on.
Yeah, $1.50 to rent a big suit. Okay, whatever. Anyway, this woman lets her 11-year-old son go to the park by himself to play and hang out for the day. When she returns to the park to pick up her son in the evening, he's nowhere to be found. She can't find him. They search for him all over the park. Eventually, his body was found in the park's swimming pool. He'd been drowned. How they couldn't find him in the swimming pool is beyond me. If you see a body floating, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not even... It's an amusement park. I'm sure it's full of people. How does no one see this boy in the pool? It's just mind-blowing. That's what's so strange to me about it, is that they're like, where did he go? I can't find him. No one finds this kid in the pool during the day. I don't understand. Apparently, his arm had gotten stuck in the pool's drain.
Oh, wow.
Because of this boy's death, the pool was drained and then filled with sand soon after. This, of course, would not be the last death at Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. The current owner claims that the park took the lives of at least 6 individuals. What's cool about the pool is that even though it's filled with sand and it's been abandoned for years, you can still see, like, the outline of the pool. Like, so you know where it is because you can see it.
So you can, like, go and identify the location where this horrific thing happened if you are so
macabre. If you are so inclined, yes.
Or macabre. As they say in New Jersey.
Oh my God, my sister's gonna be like, I hate you guys. Okay. So, not long after the boy, a young girl around 10 or 12 was on the spinning swings. And she had boarded the spinning swings, and as it lifted her up to swing her around, she was hit by a delivery truck backing up into the path of the swing.
That's awful. That's not even the park's fault. That's the delivery
truck's fault. And it killed her.
Of course it did. She's being accelerated at an incredible speed into a stationary object, or one going in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, the park began growing this reputation for strange deaths surrounding it. And this was not a big park. It's a tiny little park. It's like a carnival, you know? If this carnival were in your town and was just like, deaths kind of happen here, would you want to go? And like, no.
Like, I will take a corn dog and I am leaving, thank you.
Oh, you know what's really good? Are elephant ears.
Yeah, they are good.
Those are surprisingly good, but I haven't had one in...
years.
Yeah, like, I want to say like 6 years maybe?
For
no,
me,
5 years.
For me, it's like 15 years, so...
Didn't we have one with... We went to the Food Fest?
I didn't have one when we went to Foodie Fest.
Okay.
Like 5 years ago.
I
had a corn dog, actually.
And elote.
A fuck ton of elote.
We chug some corn in this household.
We did. We do.
All right, so the park was shut down in 1966 and left abandoned and deserted. Whether this was attributed to the deaths or the simple fact that the coal miners in the area just moved away from the area over time, who knows for sure. I guess the coal mining company or whatever did lay off a whole bunch of people during this time.
Saving lives, that coal mining company.
Oh, God. We just know that nothing was dismantled. So the Ferris wheel, the spinning swings, those are still there. Things were kind of just left there until 1985. 20 years later, a man named Gaylord White bought the land and reopened the park. He supposedly tried to make it fun again, but it was short-lived because the park closed again 3 years later after another strange slew of things happened.
Oh, no.
An archaeological dig of the property found the remains of 13 bodies, mostly children. This dig is also what confirmed that the land was on a long-time settlement of Native Americans. Jewel White, mother to the current owner Chris White, claims to be frequently visited by the spirit of a Native American. There's still remnants of the rides, like I was saying, so the Ferris wheel and the spinning swings and things like that. Apparently, the concession stands are still there, stuff like that. They're just rusted and overgrown.
Right.
The seats and swings, like the chains of the twirly ride, are still there, so you can hear like the clinking of the chains and stuff like that. Ooh, it's kind of creepy. It's just very Silent Hill nightmare-esque. Like you remember the Nightmare world within Silent Hill.
I played Silent Hill 2, that terrible game.
It very much reminds me of that. I just watched Silent Hill 2 the other day. Or was it Revelations? Silent Hill Revelations? Yeah, it's the one. This is the second one with Sean Bean in it. And there's a carousel and stuff in that movie that's just like nightmarish, on fire. And this is what that park reminds me of. It's said that you can hear the echo of ghostly children's laughter, which is absolutely terrifying. And I've said over and over and over again on this podcast that children's laughter, when it shouldn't be there, is absolutely terrifying. They also say that you can see a young girl that walks the park grounds in a pink dress covered in blood. Terrifying. Also, you could probably hire a little kid to walk around and just scare people for you. But, I mean...
Why would you? Aside from being hilarious.
If you're charging people for tours and you want to scare people...
Is anyone doing that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
The swings of the ride will twist and turn with no outside assistance or reasoning whatsoever. And there's no way that it's mechanized. Because if you see the pictures, it's like they didn't have that technology then. So the way it's built, it doesn't work that way. You'll see it. It's crazy. Have you seen the pictures yet? I sent to you?
No, I haven't looked at them yet.
All right. So supposedly in the wooded area surrounding the park, because the area is surrounded by buttloads of trees, you can hear Native American chants as well, supposedly. Even on the Ferris wheel, it's said that if you glance at it, you might catch a man sitting in the same seat, which is creepy. There was reportedly an incident with a quote-unquote psychic child that visited the park. Jewel White stated that the child was interacting with someone on the swing that no one else could see.
That's terrifying.
But
it
kids
could just
have
be imaginary friend.
Yes. During tours, White doesn't disclose which swing the girl died in, but visitors seem inexplicably drawn to that very swing because they sense some type of presence in it. I don't know how they even know which swing it is unless they marked it somehow, because it goes in a circle. I'm just like, I don't know. Who knows what of everything that has culminated into this area has caused like the slew of paranormal activity. Maybe it's cursed because it's built on an ancient Native American burial ground. Who knows?
The fact that they excavated this place and confirmed, burial ground.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily burial ground. They said settlement.
But
so either way,
you gotta bury your people somewhere.
Yeah. And it's like, this land was theirs. Not just all of it in general, but this specific place is where they lived, man.
Babe, the Pledge of Allegiance says this land is your land.
Oh,
this
no.
Land
that's
is
one, that's not the Pledge of Allegiance, and two, fuck you so very much.
Oh, is that the song? The national anthem or something? No, that's not even that.
Again, that's the Star Spangled Banner.
Damn it.
And no, it doesn't say that in there.
I have not been in elementary school for very long.
I thought you were going to say...
Just delete all of that.
Dumb.
Just delete it. Apparently, they do a quote-unquote dark carnival each October, if you folks are interested in doing that. Obviously not this October because reasons. But I would be interested in doing that. I think that'd be
the dark. You'll do the dark carnival, but there's all these other things that you won't do and you wouldn't like. Dark carnival is fucked up. Those are two words that don't get combined, man.
There is a park. There's a theme park in Korea that I think is defunct now, and it's pretty kind of messed up, rusted, overgrown itself. It's
Holy Rusted Metal Batman?
Yeah, it's falling apart, but at night they still turn the lights on. So it's this creepy, terrifying looking theme.
Waste of money.
Yeah, and music videos get filmed there and stuff.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, my dad would throw a fit for turning those lights on when there's no one there. So it's good to hear.
But yeah, so that is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park.
It's pretty good, pretty terrifying stuff. I think if this has taught me anything, it's the general rule of don't build something on a Native American burial ground.
I thought you were going to say don't drop that Durkatur.
No, but that as well. Holds true to this as well as every other thing that's ever been built on a Native American burial ground, unless it's a Native American burial ground. You're like, we're just going to keep this thing going because that's what it's for. I'm
curious. If you have a, I don't know, chieftain or holy person.
Shaman.
Come in, do a ritual so you can move the bodies. Does that work?
I don't know. Okay. Speaking as a Puerto Rican dude who's trying to place himself in the shoes of a Native American, if anyone came to me and was like, can you perform a ritual that allows us to move the bodies? Whether or not I could, I would be like, get fucked. So wait, let me get this straight. You're asking Native Americans to move again while dead. And then I would throw them the fuck out.
Oh my god.
That's what I would do. I'm not saying that that's what a Native American would do, but as a Puerto Rican guy, that's what I would do.
All right.
So there you go. That's
a solid
That's me trying to step into the shoes of someone else really fast.
All right. Nice.
I hope that helped clear up your general question.
All right. Well, that's been the episode.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for helping us get to that 1 million download mark.
Still can't believe it.
We cannot believe what we got there because of all of you, all our spooky friends, all of the new spooky friends. Welcome to the Spooky Fam. And we're really thankful. You guys can't see that my arms are all the way up in the sky.
This is a true story. When I did the math, and I was like, okay, calculating in website, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, and I was like, I think this is, yup. And I hit enter. It was like 1,328,000. And I was like, holy shit. And I like sat back in my chair. And it was like the scene at the end of Working Girl. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with Melanie Griffith. She's the good guy. And then I think Harrison Ford's in it too.
Melanie Griffith.
Sigourney Weaver's the bad guy. It's just about a chick who's like a secretary who gets like further and further up the ladder. And at the end, like she calls her friends like, guess what floor I'm on? And then, like, her friend's still a secretary, so she's further down in the building.
Aww.
And then, like, you just hear the song turn. It's like, let the river run. And then you see the secretary friend stand up and start, like, shouting, and all the secretaries start cheering. And she's, like, up in her office, like, with her beautiful view of the city. And she, like, throws her arms up in the air. Like, I totally did my Working Girl moment of, like, arms in the air, 1 million views. Fuck yeah.
We are also now YouTube partners.
Yeah, that's true.
So thank you so much for that as well. This has just been a whole episode of announcements. So
we've hit a lot of milestones in October.
We have, and we're so thankful, and we hope to hit a whole bunch more. We really couldn't do it without you, so thank you for getting to this point in the episode. If you folks have any homegrown horrors that you would love to share with us, please email us at storytime@scaryish.com. They can be true crime, they can be ghost things that have happened to you, they can be terribly funny things that are absolutely coincidental that made you crap your pants, and then crap your pants because you laughed so hard. And there's just please send us your stories. Thank you so much.
Send them to storytime@scaryish.com, which is our email. Scaryish.com is our website. Click on Contact Us. You can hit us up on Facebook, which is facebook.com/scaryish podcast. Hit us up on Twitter @scaryish pod or Instagram @scaryish podcast. If you folks would like to donate to us monetarily, you can go to patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are one-time donations. They start as low as $1 do, y'all. And as low as $1 gets you ad-free episodes. So that's pretty cool. You also get early access, and I should say it's early-ish, because it's definitely earlier than where everyone else gets it.
It's 3 right now. You'll get it in an hour.
Yep, you're going to get about 15 minutes early. So Storytime episodes tend to come out like 6 to 48 hours early, depending on how long editing takes. So pretty good stuff, though, for a single $1. And then tiers above that have all different sorts of rewards. I believe the
right
$10
now,
tier, Robin's going to talk about that.
Badge of Honor tiers and above. I got the Wendigo charms in. So I have Wendigo acrylic charms that I designed. They're double-sided. One has just like a regular Wendigo. The backside has like a bloodied Wendigo. And I'm really, really excited about it. And I've already mailed out the first batch. It's not too late for you to get yours. They're very limited in number. So if you folks want one, definitely join Patreon.
Sign up for the Badge of Honor tier and above.
And yeah.
If you have a budget and you're like, I can't fit in a monthly donation, but I can probably pop off a one-time donation, we have a coffee account, which is ko-fi.com/Scaryish podcast. You can send a one-time donation. Those do sincerely help us as well as when we stream live on Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can donate during the live streams. We give you a little shout out. It means the world to us. All donations go to helping upgrade our studio setup, purchase these things that Robin is able to send out to patrons. We put a lot back into the podcast and into the community. Like, it's really nice when she says, hey, we made X amount off of Patreon. I'm going to order 100 acrylic charms or 50 acrylic charms, like 25 of this design.
Definitely not that many.
It's just a number I pulled out of the air, but like, we can actually do that because of you folks, and it's amazing, and thank you so very much. So I do think that's just about everything for episode 149. So thank you so much for listening. We hope you had a good time, and Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.